today I'm going to be giving you 10 tips on how you can elevate yourself in 2024 even while you're broke. So let's get right into it. Mulisha Nivonse, welcome back to my channel. My name is Tembi Fletcher if it's your first time here, and I make eclectic videos. And so today I'm going to be sharing some practical ways that you can elevate yourself in 2024 even while you're broke. These are definitely simple ways, well, not all of them, but most of them are pretty simple and pretty practical for you to start implementing right away. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. I actually wrote down some notes so that way I can remember all of my points, and so that I'm not just lingering on one point at a time. I want to be able to keep this video short and sweet for you. So let me go ahead and get started with number one. Number one is change your mindset. Now, whether you like it or not, your world is framed by your mindset. A lot of us don't really comprehend how powerful our minds are and just how they're able to affect the way that we choose to live. There's so many scriptures in the Bible that talk about our minds. One of them that I really like is in Proverbs, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." And that really in itself is self-explanatory, because the way that you perceive life or the way that you think about certain situations is definitely going to affect the way that you respond to things around you, either things that you can control or things that you can't control. And I can even give an example of myself. I remember when I first moved here, I had to find a job because my parents couldn't afford to sponsor me throughout my entire time in college. And one of the excuses that I used to make a lot of the times, like when I would see my American friends getting financial aid to pay for their classes and their books and stuff like that, or to pay for their lodging or boarding, I would often complain about how I wish those resources were available to me. And usually I would say, man, if I could just get financial aid or get sponsorships, I would be in such a better place than I am right now. Or can you imagine how much I can accomplish if I had somebody funding me or somebody giving me money? And I even went to the extent of not necessarily resenting my parents, but I used to use their lack of funding as a crutch. Like, it was an excuse for me, because I was like, well, my parents never really could afford to fund me. They didn't make investments in order to be able to send me to school and blah, blah, blah. And it just kept me in a place of scarcity. And so in order for me to finally break out of that, I had to start working on my mind. I had to start renewing my mind. And this happened, interestingly, right after I had my daughter. I wanted to become a good role model for her, and so I knew that I had to renew my mind in order for me to become the best version of myself for her, so that way I wasn't always making excuses as to why I couldn't do anything for her, or why I couldn't become better. And so my saving grace was studying the Word of God, and I basically just started reciting Proverbs 31 verses 10 through 31, and it changed my thought process completely. It's like my thought process made a 180 when I actually just started reading it back to myself, and I kind of like positioned myself to become the virtuous woman. And same thing in Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind," because your mind is such a powerful tool. It could make or break your entire world. And so the more you renew your mindset, or the more you develop your mindset, the more you're going to start seeing changes in the way that you live, or the way that you respond to the things around you, the way that you respond to either negative situations or positive situations. It definitely has been life-changing for me, because I'm not the same person that I was 10, 12 years ago. This is going to take a little bit of work. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy for you, but just like I gave you an example of just reciting something positive to yourself, you can either put positive notes on the wall for you to read to yourself every single morning, or you could look at devotionals or positive quotes online. Pinterest is a great asset where you can find positive quotes, and you will be surprised how different your life is going to get in 2024 if you consistently do this. So that is tip number one. And so number two is take accountability. Now, this one is definitely going to ruffle some feathers because I think a lot of us like to make excuses for what we, for the things that we do. And a lot of us don't like to own up to our mistakes. And I can definitely attest to the fact that I used to be like that as well. Like I was saying, I would make excuses as to why I wasn't progressing in life, or why good things weren't happening to me, or why I wasn't becoming better. And so taking accountability is definitely important in getting you to a place where you can begin to learn and grow and develop. When you mess up, just own up to it. You know, I know it's not easy for most of us to do that, but it is so liberating when you develop a life of accountability. And it will even make you more agreeable, because there's nothing that is worse than dealing with someone who's disagreeable. I personally don't like dealing with people who cannot own up to their mistakes, or even just listen to a different point of view. There are people who will just like, everything is, you know, they're kind of just fixated on what they know, or just they're caught up in their ways, if I should say, or rather they're, what's that saying, they're stuck in their ways. And that's not a good place to be, because if you can't humble yourself enough to hold yourself accountable for your actions, or to say, hey, I was wrong and I need to change, or hey, I'm willing to hear you out because I probably don't know everything, or don't know as much as I think I do. So accountability is definitely really important. If you're the type of person that doesn't want to own up for, you know, whenever they make mistakes, or is unwilling to listen to others or to learn from others, I hope that this year is the year that you're going to change that, and you can easily start by taking one step at a time. When you do something wrong, just own up to it. Say, hey, I was wrong and I'm sorry, and I will do better next time. I know it's difficult, but it really isn't. The more that you do it, the more that you discover that you get good at it. So that is tip number two. Tip number three is be more intentional. Now, this one is kind of self-explanatory as well, but I will give you some examples when needed. Being intentional is very, very important in one's personal development. You cannot accomplish anything without intention. Often people go through the motions in life because they're not intentional about the things that they do, or they're not intentional about really trying to live out their best life, you know, the life that they perceive to be the best life for them. So if 2024 is the year that you want to be able to accomplish your goals, just try to be more intentional about it. Make sure that you take time to do what you said you're going to accomplish this year. I, for one, can just give you an example of me filming right now. This was definitely something that I intentionally decided to do. Had I just woken up and been like, oh, you know, we're going to see what the day holds. Maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that, or maybe I won't, I would have never been able to sit down in front of the camera right now, because I have a very busy life. And often life gets in the way for most of us. And so it's so easy to just get caught up in life happening to us when we're not intentional. And we end up feeling like, what's wrong? Sorry, that was my son. And we end up feeling like we've got misfortune, or we're just not lucky, or stuff like that, which is definitely not true. So develop an attitude of intention this year, of being more intentional. So if you want to start a YouTube channel this year, for example, that's just an example I'm giving, you don't have to do that. Make sure that you're more intentional about it and you make time for it. Same thing with your families. If you want to improve your relationships with your loved ones or your friends this year, you're going to have to be more intentional about it. You're going to have to tell yourself, hey, today I'm going to call my sister, or today I'm going to spend more time with my kids. You're going to have to be more intentional about just making all of these things work. And I would even go as far as saying weight loss is definitely one of the major things that most of us need to be intentional about, because obviously at the beginning of the year, we are so motivated. We feel so motivated to join a gym and join a workout plan and get, if we can afford it, get a nutritionist. But obviously, as I'm talking about this is for people who may not have the funds to do that. So that does not cater to most of you who are probably watching. But yeah, once that motivation goes away, it is your intentionality, or your intention is a better word, better way to say it, is what is going to determine your longevity and even determine your success at what you do. So be more intentional. Now let me move on to number 4, because I do not want to dwell on each point for too long. Number 4 is be open to new opportunities. This one, I would say, for me happened unexpectedly and organically. Like I said earlier, when I started changing my mindset, it kind of just changed the way that I thought about looking for opportunities. I discovered that I became a lot more open to finding new ways of not survival at the time for my family, because we didn't really have that much money. Shane and I were newlyweds. I had just had a daughter, and we were just starting to build up our finances as a couple. And so it's interesting how I started creating resourceful ways to be able to bring in more in our home. I started babysitting organically. That was a way for me to bring in more resources. And that's because I was just a lot more open to finding new opportunities. And then another thing too is, I remember I wanted to dress better. Like, dressing better was one of my goals. And so I would go and was Pinterest there at the time in 2014? I think so. I would go online and I would check out, I would check out pins of really fashionable women, because I think blogging had just started at that time as well, and YouTube was picking up as well. Sorry about that. I had to take my ring light out because it's getting really dark outside and I don't want to have to continue filming this video tomorrow. So hope you don't mind the change in lighting, and I hope I'm just not I'm still trying to work the lighting, so I hope it doesn't look weird, because it looks pretty dark in the viewfinder or on the screen, but hopefully it's not too jarring for you. But anyway, I was talking about opportunities, and so basically I started finding ways of becoming more resourceful. And so thrifting was something that I just really started doing more often, because it was a really affordable way for me to be able to find amazing clothing at an affordable price for me and my daughter and my husband as well. And since then, I've been thrifting since I was a teenager, so I became more of an avid thrifter after I had my daughter, because I knew that life was going to keep getting expensive for us, and I've never looked back since then. It has been, and it's amazing that a lot of the times when people meet me around town and stuff like that, they always ask, where did you get your coat from, or where did you get your dress from? And I'm just like, oh, it's thrifted. And they're like, well, you look like $1 million. And it's definitely a testament to what is possible when you open yourself up to new opportunities. People are going to think that you spend a fortune to look good when you really don't. Same thing even with stuff like florals in my home. I started out just by picking branches outside, and this was even before it became popular. I would pick branches from outside and also pick flowers if I found like wildflowers outside, and I would put them on the dining table and make our space feel a lot more expensive and just feel a lot more alive. And I still do that to this day, and I will say it's been nothing but amazing. It's been nothing but profitable for me. So that is that. And then number 5, I would encourage you to develop new hobbies. So it doesn't have to be multiple hobbies. It could be one, depending on how much time you have on your hands. This is definitely a good way to improve or to develop yourself in 2024, because it's going to give you the opportunity to make your life a lot more interesting and even make you come out more interesting to others. Because to be honest with you, there's nothing more depressing than talking to someone who has no interest in their life. It's like their life is just so monotonous that they do the same things every single day, and therefore they lack interest. This is why it's so important that you keep improving your life by just learning something new. So a hobby does not have to be expensive. It doesn't have to cost you any money. You could take up knitting, you could take up learning how to play a new instrument. And so hobbies don't necessarily have to be extremely complicated. You could take up gardening, you could take up sewing, or maybe learn how to code if you're pretty analytical. You like stuff like math and science and stuff like that. There is a ton of information out there that can teach you anything in this world right now. I don't think we've ever been in a period in time where information and knowledge is so readily available to us. So unless you live under a rock and have no access to the internet, you cannot make the excuse of not being able to learn something new every single day. So I will end there. Let's move on. Number 6 is clean your space. I don't even think I have to go in depth in this one, because we all know what it's like to have dirty surroundings and how they affect the way that we feel, or the way that we function on a daily basis. And I'm not telling you or asking you to have a home that is immaculate 24/7, because I understand I have kids, and half the time you're probably going to find a few toys lying around every single day. But I have made it a point, or I have made it a priority, to ensure that I clean up our space every single day. And it could be just, I make sure that the dishes are done, and I sweep the floors and put stuff away. So it's not always that I'm going to be doing deep cleaning and stuff like that. So the goal is just to make sure that your space is clean enough for you to be able to function and for you to be productive, to be more productive. So I will end there with that one. Moving on to number 7, improve your hygiene. This one is pretty self-explanatory as well, but I will say that there's nothing worse than talking to someone, having a conversation with somebody who is quote unquote, well, not quote unquote, who is musty or has bad breath or just has no sense of upkeep or sense of hygiene. That is a major put off, and I'm sure it's a major put off for everybody out there. It's highly important that you develop a good sense of hygiene in 2024. That is tip number 7. Tip number 8 is develop a sense of style. Now, this one is definitely going to go hand in hand with hygiene. I think style is something that one develops over time. And it takes a lot of trial and error for you to be able to do that. So this one, I would say, is not mandatory in the sense that you have to be a fashionista in order for you to improve your life in 2024. I would say just develop a sense of, I would say a better phrase is develop a sense of class. Learn how to dress appropriately whenever you leave your home. It is awful that we live in a generation where grown women, like, millennials, Gen Z, and unfortunately even Gen X sometimes. I've seen Gen X and even baby boomers at Walmart in their PJs and house shoes and bonnets sometimes, or they'll have rollers on. And I'm like, sis, what are you thinking? You get what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but you can't help but notice when something like that happens. Notice somebody across the room who is dressed like they just got out of bed. So this is why I'm saying developing a sense of style is very, very important. Or if anything, just knowing how to dress appropriately. And I'm not saying that you should never ever go out without, I mean, I personally would probably not opt for PJs when I'm going out, unless maybe it's super cold. I would probably put a trench coat over it, or like a really long coat, wear appropriate boots, and nobody would ever know that I'm wearing my PJs. But if anything, even if I dressed up that way, it would only be because I'm going to a drive-through, but I'm definitely not going to be going out with a bonnet on my head. I'm going to either have to put a hat on to mask it or something like that. So it's just common courtesy. And I think when you're able to dress appropriately, dress classier when you're out and about, you find that people will actually show you more respect versus when you dress like a bum or you dress like you just rolled out of bed. So I'll end there. Let's end that there. Number 9, I'm almost done. Expand your imagination. Now, this one is definitely one of my favorite ways that I've been able to improve my life over the years. And this inspiration came from watching my kids, watching my daughter when it was just her at the time, and just seeing how she was immersed in her imagination. It's like her entire world was framed by her imagination. So the way that she thought and looked at life, she looked at life through rose-colored glasses. And so I really wanted to get back to the place where I was a lot more childlike about the way that I saw the world. And I know that as I'm talking to you, some of you might be thinking that this is impossible for you right now as adults, but imagination comes naturally to all of us. Every single child has an imagination, and so do we as adults, but we just don't hone in on it, or we don't cultivate our imagination a lot when we're older because of the experiences that we may have faced in life while we were growing up, or the traumas. Some of us have experienced really traumatic situations or have had really traumatic experiences, and now we just can't see life as colorful anymore. And I pray that you get back to the point where you can think more like a child in terms of just how fascinating life is. And for me, one of the ways that I've really been able to expand on my imagination and really just improve my lifestyle or improve myself is through writing, doing things like painting, interior design. I write songs now, not now, but I've been writing songs over the years, and that all came out of my imagination. The more that I dig deep into myself, into my heart or into my inner being, the more I've been able to bring amazing things to life. And some people may not think it's as phenomenal, but it's definitely been phenomenal for me. And so I would encourage you to do the same thing. Now, you don't have to be a songwriter or an author like myself. Neither do you have to become an interior designer or a painter. You could you never know what you're capable of. Maybe you could be the next person who ends up inventing a new way of cooking, such as the air fryer. That came out of somebody's imagination. And so there is no limit as to what you can accomplish when you begin to expand your imagination. And yeah. Number 10, practice gratitude. Now, I was going to end with this one, but I think I'm going to give you a bonus tip. No, you know what? Let's end it with this one. Practice gratitude. Now, this one is very easy, but I know it's definitely not going to come easy for everyone. And that's because we are more inclined as human beings to focus on the negatives in our lives. And it's so much easier for most of us to complain about things, like the things that happen to us, than it is to really just be thankful for the things that we have. Practicing gratitude is definitely going to have to become intentional for you. So when you wake up in the morning, just be grateful that you're able to breathe and you were able to open your eyes. Same thing, you look at nature, outside at nature. Oh, I'm so thankful that there's oxygen, I can see the plants, I can hear the birds, I have the ability to hear, the ability to smell amazing food, or to smell the beautiful roses. And that really will even help you to take time to smell the roses. Even as cliche as that may sound, practicing gratitude is going to really just make you more open to seeing what you have. And it's going to kind of minimize the lack in your life. And I have definitely developed a new lifestyle because of that, to where it's really to where it has become really difficult for me to focus on what I'm lacking personally or what we're lacking as a family, versus me being able to recognize all the wonderful things, all the wonderful opportunities, all the wonderful people that I have in my life, and just how bright my future is. So yeah, that is that. I hope I was able to end this video for you on an amazing note, or on a good note. Please give it a thumbs up if you haven't already done so, and also subscribe if you haven't done so as well. And I want to bring videos like these for you at least once a month. I want to bring at least one video a month that will focus on self-development or leveling up. We'll call it the Leveling Up series. And so this is probably the second installment this year. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. And I would love to hear your feedback on it as well. So let's go ahead and get started on implementing all of these tips that I've shared with you. And definitely all of them are pretty much cost effective. So there is no reason for you to complain about it's not doable, sis. Easier said than done. Let's not be those people in 2024. 2024 is all about I am capable, intelligent, and virtuous, and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So that is that. Good night, everybody. God bless, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye.